Powered by Red Media in partnership with TSN, it is season 6 of the Ray and Dregs Hockey Podcast, and it is presented by our title sponsor, Tim Hortons. Say, Roll Up the Rim to Win is back now through March 23rd, Ray. You can play for a chance to win tens of millions of prizes, including the electric Volkswagen ID Buzz vehicles. You've got ATVs, vacations, electronics, gift cards, Tim's products, so much more, which is why there are tens of millions of prizes. Tim's reward members earn one digital roll with each eligible purchase of select drinks, breakfast, or meal items. Plus, while supplies last, guests can also receive Roll Up Rim to Win hot beverage cups with a roll to reveal under the rim. There's a lot of rolling going on, but it's a fun time at Tim Hortons now through March 23rd. How are you doing, Raymond? Everything good?
Yeah, it's good. You know, as we were getting ready to go on the air, I was thinking about when I first went on TV. My first host at ESPN was a guy by the name of Billy Pito. Billy, hilarious guy.
Yes.
You know, he's at MSG and he does the fastest 90 seconds in sports.
Yeah.
You know, and he goes through the highlights. And so as we were coming on the air here, like before we queued up the music, I was thinking, this is the stupidest 5 minutes of my day. It's kind of like the same segment.
But it's a good stupid. It's not just stupid. It's kind of an entertaining stupid, is it not?
Yes, because each day it's somebody different that brings a little bit of nonsense that just runs this thing into the ditch before we've even started.
It was Dregs today. It was Dregs today.
It kind of was.
Without question, it was Dregs today. Without question. We were rumbling around in a drainage ditch here with Dregs trying to drive back on the road. It was, I don't know what, you woke up like grumpy. And
No. I mean, I'm in good shape here. It's a long, you know what long days are all about because you have many of them over the course of a week. So Tuesday is normally that for me. No, I wanted to
but
make
it's
sure
9 in the morning. It's 9 in the morning in the East.
I understand.
Being aggressive. It was aggressive.
I wanted to make sure that our title sponsor was appropriately.
No, before that.
All.
Even before.
Oh,
before.
Yeah, well, that's another discussion for another day.
How are you,
the producer says move along. Producer saying move along, fellas.
Ray, the Four Nations fever apparently is still a thing, huh? I mean, Matthew Tkachuk of the Florida Panthers, he's going to be on the shelf a while with a groin-related issue, but healthy enough to continue to celebrate Four Nations, although they did not win the gold. Obviously, Canada did. But on the Tonight Show, I mean, I can't recall the last time a guest, maybe they have, Stanley Cup winners on the Tonight Show on a regular basis. I don't know. I'm not normally up that late, to be honest, but it does show the hype wheel and the benefits that the NHL and the Players Association are going to enjoy coming out of the Four Nations for the foreseeable future, perhaps.
Yeah, I thought it was awesome when I read he was going to be on, and he did a great job. I can't imagine it's very easy to sit there and it's an entertainment show, and you can't just go on there and talk about the old chip the puck in the corner and get in on the forecheck, right? Like you gotta entertain it, but it's not like the Tkachuks don't have entertainment around them. I thought he did a great job. I love the story about, like he was talking about him and Brady, and the last time he saw Brady crying was when he put him through the wall when they were playing basement hockey. And you can just imagine what the basement of that house must have looked like.
Oh boy.
Right? I know in our house, we moved to Atlanta. We finished this basement off, a really good playing area. And within 3 minutes, my kids at the time, Matt and Landon, were little. And man, it looked like it had been, I don't know what it looked. It looked ventilated. It was
like holes in wall type of stuff.
All over the place. We're like, what? And a body imprint. There was one body imprint that Landon must have got right between the beams, and Matt smashed him in there. And it's like, gee, I wonder who that is. It's the same height. It's and so we just left it. We're like, oh, the hell with it. So I thought he did a great job. Like, and I'm sure, the Tkachuks had a laugh out of watching watching Matthew on there.
Yeah. All right, let's get into the Tim Hortons headlines. And there is a lot going on, as we expected, of course. It's kind of a fun time of year. You've got trade deadline looming. You've got that final push for playoff spots. The jockeying atop the NHL continues. Washington, Winnipeg, 1-2 right there. Monday night, Mark Scheifele scores in overtime to beat the San Jose Sharks. Now, that's the 16th overtime winner of Mark Scheifele's career. That sounds like a lot to me. It does.
Yeah.
But then, then you look at the numbers beneath the surface and you say, okay, 329 goals for Mark Scheifele, which, by the way, passes Ilya Kovalchuk for most in franchise history. But 16 overtime winners that's a pretty big number, isn't it? And I mean, he's a long way from being near the end.
Well, it is a big number. It means you got to be out there a lot to get them. Once you're out there, of course, you got to be productive enough to do it. But it also, I guess, it also becomes part and parcel of the great season the Jets are having. Their points tell you they're one of the best teams in the league. I think the thing that I like about them and Washington both is that neither have had really much of a lull to their season. They started off well, and maybe there was a period where they got a little scruffy, but it's hard to be great all the time.
Manage the lows, right?
Yeah, they both of them have. And then so last night, San Jose, like they've got a 1-0 lead with a minute left, and Morrissey scores, and then they lose the game a minute and a half later. And Winnipeg is having a great season. Scheifele is having quietly a really great year, and we've had him on before. He is a hockey nerd, geek, whatever you want to call it. Like he loves the game. He loves the churn of getting better. And what is that guy doing? Oh yeah, maybe I could steal a little bit from this guy, and I could train a little differently over here. He's a really impressive player in the fact that there's always an engine driving him. And man, that's a hell of a team. A hell of a team right now.
Okay, now let's shift over to the Washington Capitals. So Alex Ovechkin records a hat trick as Washington stomped the Oilers on the weekend. So Ovi is 13 shy of Wayne Gretzky's record with 25 games left. I mean, can we guarantee it? Can we do the Messier? I mean, he's going to get it this year. It feels like he's going to get it this year.
Yeah, I won't go to the guarantee because I guess you could, there's health. What if he went no goals in 6 games? I mean, I guess it, doesn't seem like it's going to happen. But so the Capitals scored 15 goals on the weekend. They come out of the break and they score 15 goals in 2 games. I did the game in Pittsburgh. Ovi took in the third period. Pittsburgh was shorthanded for 4 minutes. Ovi was on for all 4 minutes. So he took. I thought his arms were going to fall off. He had four shots on net. He hit the post, which doesn't count as a shot, and he missed the net once. So even though the Penguins basically had a guy standing in his pocket, he took 6 shots. And it was like a cannon. Boom, 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 boom. Like it was all over the place. Shot attempts. Then the next day he gets 3. So I think to your point, Dregs, that kind of gives me there's not really a long stretch of goals or no goals in 10 games or 8 games.
Yeah.
It doesn't seem like it's going to happen. It'll be something if he gets right into April there, and he's going to be really tight to it.
Yeah, and I mean the way he scored the goals in against the Oilers. So he had the snapshot, the first one off the rush, right? The second one was left circle one-timer. How many times have we seen that over the years? And then again, the hockey god's kind of smiling a bit because Emerson breaks his stick and Ovi's got the empty netter from 130 feet or so. Yeah. So I mean, it was a combination of things that just again emphasizes how things are going his way. So for me, it's not only plausible. Now at this point, I'm willing to say it's at least likely that he's going to break the record.
I can guarantee you in our business, people above our position are making plans. For like, okay, what if he gets around it? How quickly are we sending people on the road? I mean, it's a historic event. I mean, obviously the last time this record changed hands was 30 years ago, and it's not changing hands again. Not in the next. Well, I don't know when's the next time it's ever going to be attacked. I can't even imagine.
Yeah, and then people start looking at 1,000 goals.
1,000. I remember it was 15, 18 years ago. Well, it would have been 15. John Butchergross started writing articles about, on this pace he could do it, and it was. And I used to just give it to him. I'm like,
stop
there's
it.
no chance. There's what are you doing? He's going to get 35 goals at age 40. Yeah, good one. And oh my God, like he's almost got it. I don't have the first article, but if you go back, he's not 6 months off. Like it's amazing, and it looks like he's going to be. He looks like he's going to be pretty close. Yeah.
All right, we've got the trade deadline around the corner, and
you love the deadline.
I don't know if I love it. I get a little twitchy. I'm not going to lie, because it's the fear of the unknown that doesn't make you nervous, just makes you anxious and uneasy, because anything can happen at any time. And
right.
Even though I like to be tucked away by 11 o'clock Eastern most nights, there is that Pacific time zone that can kind of throw a wrench into things for us in the East, especially this time of year. So let's start with some of the buzz around Seth Jones. He has contract protection, right? So he is going to steer this process with Pat Brisson, who represents Seth. Now, it sounds like the Dallas Stars are his preferred destination. He has history with Billy Zito, the general manager of the Florida Panthers, that dates back to Columbus. So I guess Florida could be a fit. But Chicago needs players, right? It's not like you're just unloading a massive salary in Chicago. You're retaining, of course you'd have to retain if Seth Jones is going to a contender. But this is going to be the complication of this type of deal. He wants to win. He wants to go to a winning environment. Great. But the Chicago Blackhawks don't want to lose for the next 10 years. And they have to show their fan base that there's a hockey deal that needs to be observed in all of this. So it's tricky, isn't it? It's not as simple as it sounds.
It's really tricky because, I did the Penguins game on Saturday, and I think they've got 30 picks in the next 3 years in the draft. If they make another trade and get 3 more draft picks, do you think anybody in Pittsburgh cares? They're like, uncle. Like, the bucket of draft picks, great. I'm glad it's full. It's flowing over. Let's start doing something with them. The people that are your paying customer, they need to see people while your ultimate goal, everybody can see, is down the road. They need to go to the rink and be like entertained. They need to, like, all this stuff eventually of, oh yeah, we were hanging in games. Like, nobody cares after a while. You're like, great, you hang in a game and then you lose. The younger, so you look at the teams, who's got younger players, because that's what you're looking for, right? And are they players that have stalled a little bit, at 21, 22, 23? Are they those players? I think so. And and if you can just get 2 teams to poke around there, Columbus is a sneaky one again that, since he's already been there. But I mean, can they get in there too? They've got 1 million young players. They really do. And what a year they're having. But Dallas makes a lot of sense. They've got all kinds of cap space, and, they always draft well. They always seem to have players around there. And of course, Florida needed a defenseman before, their current little state of course, without Tkachuk. But I always, didn't you always feel they were going to add somebody? Dregs, they were going to. They were going to get somebody, and now Jones is out there.
Yeah, and if that's the case, if he ends up in Florida, I mean, how do you know what that transaction looks like? But it kind of feels like it closes the door on Sam Bennett then, right? He's a pending unrestricted free agent. Florida is a cap team, but where are you getting that money to cover off moving forward? So.
Well, okay, so I guess there's one other one other thing that just popped into my head is Ekblad's in the last year of his contract too.
Yeah, true.
And so maybe you get into a discussion of, is it Ekblad or is it Bennett?
Right.
And I mean, there's with these GMs now, Drakes, there's just so many moving parts. Like we see the surface, and they've got that. I always talk about that whiteboard behind their head in their office. It's a little more formal than that, but that thing's got. When you got the dry erase on your sleeve because you keep rubbing the board off. That's what they got back there, and they're change this, move this. It's really pretty interesting.
And Billy Zito's got a worn patch in the carpet, just circling, right? Just looking at it, circling. His eyes are going all over the place.
A GM told me once that they were looking at the board one day, him and a couple of his advisors, and they were looking at the board, and so it was like, okay, the meeting's over. There's nothing else to talk about it, but they were just staring at the players' names, and somebody goes, "You think if we stare at these names long enough, the team will get better?" And they all started to laugh, and they're like, let's get the hell out of here.
We're recording this episode on Tuesday, so we have the Toronto Maple Leafs and the Boston Bruins regionally tonight on TSN. The Bruins are on the outside of the wild card line right now, and key injuries make you question whether or not they're going to be able to get back into the mix. I mean, they're in the mix, but what I'm saying is into full playoff contention here. So Hampus Lindholm is out long-term. Charlie McAvoy is, I still want to call him week to week. We'll see how that plays. It sounds, Ray, like the Boston Bruins want to rejig on the fly, similar to what we've seen the Washington Capitals do, the Los Angeles Kings. Teams have done it and have been successful. But I'm wondering, when you think of or look at the core of the Boston Bruins, is it good enough for Don Sweeney to be able to pull that off? And you do have to have pieces that you're peddling off between now and March 7th to do exactly that, kind of retool on the fly.
By the way, this is my new favorite thing. Nobody wants to rebuild, but they want to rejig, renovate.
It's an R word. It's an R word.
It's amazing. There's about 5 terms now that teams are using because nobody's rebuilding. Their teams are lousy.
Renovate.
You used rejig.
Reset.
Refurbish. I heard this past week.
You just can't use the rebuild word. That's the bad R word. Yeah,
that's it. That sends bells and whistles off. But so I look at Boston. They're not skilled enough. Nowhere near skilled enough. They get David Pastrnak and then an incredible drop off in their forwards of skill. How do you fix that? Like if they also don't have many young players, almost none in the prospect pool. So they're stuck in the. They tried to be really good, and they were really good for a long period of time. And 2 years ago, they blew out some of their futures because they had 130 points, like they should have.
Yeah.
Like there's times you got to go for it, and it just didn't work for them. And now eventually you got to, you're going to get nicked with it, and the Bruins are. So the biggest problem I see when I read about the Bruins and all the people that write about their team and talk about their team, they're like, they got to look forward. They got to move forward. But okay, but if you trade players, who are you trading? And what are you getting? Like there is no big market player for them that's going to get you a young prospect in a second. Like they don't have one of these. And so it's a really tough spot. Washington and LA have done it incredibly well. Dregs, a year ago, there were articles, many of them saying, this has to be it for Rob Blake. This team is no good. And I'm telling you, whatever the needle hole is, they threaded it really well. And last night, I think when they blew out Vegas in the third period, I think they're 14-1-1 at home. It's amazing. And they got 17 home games left at the in the last part of the year.
Yeah.
And Washington, you couldn't do that any better because they never got really terrible. And then all of a sudden, McMichael and Protas are going to be 25 goal scorers. So those young guys came along, and then they made those, the Chikrin trade last year and the Thompson trade, and those guys have been grand slams. And man, they threaded it really, really finely. And it's a lot of teams want to do it, man. I think it's really hard to do well.
All right, Toronto Maple Leafs. I mean, we know that they would love to add Brayden Schenn, right? I mean, among the centers that are believed to be available, yes, granted a hefty price if you're luring the captain of the St. Louis Blues out of St. Louis. But I would say that he is top priority. Doesn't mean Toronto's going to get him. They may not, be willing to meet whatever the ask is, right? And it is going to be significant. Scott Laughton is another option with the Philadelphia Flyers, but it sounds like now Danny Briere and the Philadelphia Flyers are watching some of the activity around the league and going, okay, well, originally we thought to move Scott Laughton, we'd get a first. Maybe now it's a first plus, again, depending on the want and how many teams you've got after that same type of player. So I'm asking, and Toronto also wants a defenseman. They'd be okay with a third pairing guy, provided that the fit was bang on at center ice. If they get like a second, third choice centerman, then maybe they invest a little bit more in a better defenseman. We'll see how it plays out. But there is this developing all-in mentality throughout the Toronto Maple Leafs organization. Is it the time, in your opinion? You talked about Boston a couple of minutes ago and how they felt after the year that they had. So you look at the uncertainty of Mitch Marner contractually, John Tavares contractually, everything that's going on around the Maple Leafs. Would this be your all-in move if you're management?
Yes, because I love the Capitals. I've done them half a dozen times this year. When I watch them live, I'm like, they are impressive. But they are not one of those teams that you look at and go, oh my God, they're way better than everybody else. Like, I don't get that sense. I get a sense in the East that it's a mixed bag of teams that are all packed together that, man, you better be careful when you're predicting and saying, oh, that's the team. So my point is, Toronto is one of those teams that are in the very top of the mixed bag of teams in the East. Yeah. If you don't go now, when is that going to be? Like, what are you waiting for? Because if you sign Marner, there's a pretty hefty tag to it. Yes, Tavares' number goes down. You don't flip those numbers, but there's enough room there. If you trade for Brayden Schenn, you're going to blow out a little bit of your future here. What does that give you left for a defenseman? So is the play Laughton and the defenseman? Like, because is one guy the difference? Like, is Brayden Schenn the difference, or do you really need two? Because it's going to be tough to do Schenn plus somebody else if you could make those deals work, because you only have so many assets, right? And and you mentioned that thing about Briere, like sitting there with Scott Laughton. Like, now you're sitting there, and it gets referred to as poker all the time, but that's exactly what he's doing. He's getting these calls, and now you look at this card, this set of cards, that set of cards. It becomes, how long can you wait? Because if you make me an offer and I say, oh, I need something else, and then you make me another offer, I got to make sure that I don't wait too long, and you say, out of hell with Philly, I got to move somewhere else.
Right.
And then you lose that bidder. So, man, this is why I guess you have anxiety around the deadline, because everything changes so fast. But if I'm Toronto, I am not waiting. Yeah. I don't think teams are way better than me that I can't beat them 4 out of 7 times. And I think in my mind, I think that's the mark line.
All right, we're going to give Mikko Rantanen and the Carolina Hurricanes a little breathing room. We'll revisit that story, because there's really nothing new there, right? All the differing scenarios that could happen. He could extend, he could be traded. They may keep him as an own rental. All of that, it's been discussed. So we'll push that to Thursday and see if there's anything fresh.
Can I make one
quick thought? Well, yeah,
not about trading him or whatever, but I guess after watching him play for a couple of weeks there, we were all like blown away with the trade. Like, oh my gosh, like, the player that is Mikko Rantanen. He looks like he's having a tough time playing the style of game that they play.
Right.
And that happens all the time. It really does. Like, why do some players fit better in some places than others? Look at how Carolina plays. And it's fast and direct, Rantanen kind of works his way around the ice. He picks his way around the ice. And, there are times it just looks like an odd fit. And
yeah.
I mean, that's leaving aside the contractual stuff because that's not my business. But because I'm not talking to people to understand it. But the playing style becomes something that you've got to look at. And if they can't make that work, oh boy, because Marty Necas is a hell of a player, and he's already gone. You don't get him back. And if you move Rantanen, now you're trying to replace a lot of things here.
Yeah, and it took Necas about a day for him to realize that, hey, hockey is fun in Colorado. So, I mean, that's a bit of a swipe, of course, at Roddy and the Carolina Hurricanes. Okay, we're going to wrap up headlines here. We've got Ryan Rashog, who's like eager to get in with Ask Ray and Dregs Anything. Can't leave the segment. So Elias Pettersson, I mean, I'll give him some credit. It feels like he's going to go down swinging with the Vancouver Canucks. So was it Sunday night? It was after the Utah game, right? Sunday night. Where he was asked by media whether confidence is a factor when struggling to score. And his response, quote, "It's more annoying dealing with the media." Now, I wasn't there. I don't know that he was kidding. He doesn't seem like that sort of jovial sort of guy in that environment. So what's your takeaway? I mean, that comment aside, is he just fed up? Is he fed up with his inability to generate offense, with his own game, with all the factors that he's facing at this stage?
Yeah. Dregs, I watched the game Sunday, and I thought it was the best game he's played in weeks. I thought right from the very beginning of the game, I'm like, oh my God, this is what he looks like. He set up a couple of great chances early. He had a couple of chances to score. In the third period, it's 1-1. He has a breakaway. He shoots it over the top of the net. And then late in the game, he's got a chance on the 6-on-5, and he's hesitant to shoot it. And he passes it off to his right. And it's just, it was, for me, it was really a positive game for the way that he's been playing. So that gets him to the end of the game. My understanding is there were 2 Vancouver media guys there. 2. This is not a scrum of 20 people. Yeah. The guy that asked the questions, Ian McIntyre. Ian. He's a nice man. He's respectful. He does not write outlandish things. He waited for the camera to leave so he could ask it one-on-one to give him a little space, and that's the answer he came up with. So as I'm watching all that unfold, what came to me, and you just in so many words said it, was I don't think he's got the answer himself right now. And I think that's the annoying, frustrating part. Like I can only compare it to my career, but there are times I'm like, I don't even know how to fix this. Like, I think I'm playing hard. I think I'm playing as best as I can, and nothing's happening. And that was at my level of player. He was a 90, 100-point player 18 months ago. Like, how does this happen? And I don't think he knows. I think it's probably a lot of factors. I really do. I think there's a lot of factors here. So if you're Vancouver, like you're stuck here. He's frustrated. The team's frustrated. The fans are frustrated. And quite frankly, if he doesn't find his game, the Canucks are sunk, because you need a number one center. He is your number one center, but I think he's got no goals in 11 and 2 assists in 6 games in February, and you're not going to win if your best guy is trudging along like that.
Those are your headlines. Thank you to Tim Hortons. All right, Ask Ray and Dregs Anything is brought to us by Acon. If you're a skilled tradesperson or construction pro looking for work in Western Canada, Acon wants to hear from you. Acon is a North American construction leader, proud to be one of Canada's original industrial contractors. They're building some of the largest multi-year industrial projects in Western Canada, and you can be a part of it. They're looking for skilled tradespeople, construction professionals to join the Acon team. Start building what matters today. Join Acon by sending your resume to trades@acon.com. What's going on, Ryan? Lift your head up. Put a smile on that face. Head down.
Well, I was going to ask you. Are you in a better mood? How you doing, bud?
Are you two guys going to start this again? Oh my gosh! Why can't you get along like I do with people?
There's some looseness with the podcast the last couple of days here. It's starting to wear on me a little bit.
We'll tighten it up. I'll let Randine know you're unhappy with her work, Dregs. I'll make sure I pass that on to my wife.
So what happened is Ryan went on the road for, I think he was out there like 5 days, and everything is falling apart.
12 days.
12. Oh, you made it to 12. Way to go, Ryan. You just and then, guys, I'm gonna have to leave early because I'm tired and I got a flight home. Like, it was embarrassing.
Can we move on? Can we get on to the content that Acon is so graciously sponsoring? And
this is the stuff Acon loves.
Yeah, our infighting brought to you by Acon. Okay, gents, we'll be quick because I know Ray's tight on a deadline today. A couple of points of note from throughout the podcast. Bucci's article, I found it, Ray, February 3rd, 2010. Was where the first article that I could find, he projected 897 by age 40. It was really, I read through the article and he made some calls in there. Like, his prognostications are pretty impressive from all the way back in 2010. So he gets credit for this one. We love to carve on the guy, but he gets credit for this one. Also, tonight's show, Henrik Lundqvist appeared right in around his Hockey Hall of Fame induction, and Wayne Gretzky has been on there as well. Ovechkin and Holtby went on. You'll remember after winning the Cup, Ovechkin went on in like a gray unzipped sweatshirt and like an Adidas t-shirt or something.
The only reason was because that was the Stanley Cup celebration where the lady behind the glass did. So it made it an American spectacle. That's what that was all about.
That's great. Yeah. Okay, we'll keep it to just a couple here. Jory in Winnipeg is asking for our grace. Just kind of stay with him on this. This might be a weird one, but Ray, do you think secretly coaches don't love the long winning streaks later on in a season? They seem to build expectation, often lead to playoff letdown. Would they quietly rather win, say, 12 out of 14 games with the loss mixed in there to keep everybody honest? Love the show. Thanks for taking my question.
I think teams are nervous when they get to the playoffs and everything's going their way. Because the game just doesn't work like that. Eventually, something odd happens. We often hear about the hockey gods and even the thing out, the puck at one end and it goes in at the other, like all that sort of thing. I do think teams would like to be healthy and playing well, because what happens on April the 15th doesn't matter on April the 17th. It really doesn't. You could be playing great and it falls apart. You could, like last year, remember the Oilers played, they played nobody in Colorado and they lost like 7-0. They got their teeth kicked in and like, it didn't matter. And so they had played well. They had a little speed wobble at the end, and then they went to the Stanley Cup final. So I don't think he's off there. I think coaches get nervous about everything, but that would make them uneasy for sure.
Just a quick thought on that too, because it's going to happen next year with a further condensed regular season schedule. Like general managers and coaches don't like playing games in October. Not as many. They want the majority of their games played out in March and April, right? So that they're hitting full stride and getting ready for the playoffs. But next year, because of the schedule, October is going to be busy as well.
Any chance they go to double headers?
Oh boy.
I mean, like these guys are going to be playing three games every 6 days, like all the time.
Twice this year, and I can't think of the teams involved, but only twice this year, a team has had to play or will play 5 games in 7 nights. Imagine that. 5 games over a 7-day stretch. And again, 14 days are coming out of the schedule next year. Right. So there'll be more of those. It's going to be crazy.
Yikes. Okay, moving on to Tyson in Ottawa says, gentlemen, can we think of examples of other young players trying to change their game and add a fighting or, quote, angry element to it? Watching Slafkovsky the other night and hearing him talk afterwards, it feels like he's setting himself up for a tough path. If that doesn't come naturally and you weren't doing it in the first place, can it be something you will into your game? Appreciate the show. Never miss an episode. Tyson in Ottawa talking about Juraj Slafkovsky, a physical rambunctious night, a scrap, and then some talk afterwards about wanting to do more of that, right?
Well, I'll tell you, someone that couldn't do that would have been me. Is like, if I, as to borrow from our buddy Jamie McLennan, he would have said, I kept coming third in my fights. So I was like, that would be not the,
Such
the
a good
thing.
line.
He's such a big guy, Slafkovsky. Like at a certain point, I'm sure the Canadians have been saying to him, like, use the size you have, use the gift you have, like lean on people, start finishing through people. You don't have to be Kiefer Sherwood and have 300 hits already this year, but don't play like a 5'8" guy. And so I don't know that there's not enough fighting in the game to say, oh, that's what's going to happen. But I think you can will yourself, if you have the frame like he does, to be a more physical player. What an advantage. If you can lean on people, the guy's 220 pounds, man. Like he's just a kid still. So I think that makes him, if he's getting that into his mind, I'm like, man, that's really intriguing.
Yeah, like creep into that category of power forward if you can get there. I mean, he's
sure.
got an arse like a rhinoceros. Like, it's just unbelievable. the lower body power that he should have. And just as you're talking about that, Ray, I think about Matthew Nyes with the Toronto Maple Leafs, kind of a similar build, big dude. So channel that aggression. Don't fight, but find a way to channel that power.
Yeah, Nyes and Will Cooley and Slafkovsky. These guys are monsters, and they can skate like that. Yeah. If they can play the power style too, man, they're unicorns.
If he starts dropping that shoulder more often, he'll probably have guys tapping on the shin pads wanting to go a little more. Ray, do you want him taking more of those, or should he be a little picky?
I don't think all of a sudden he's going to fight 20 times in a season.
Yeah.
But I would say if he's going to do it, like if he's going to play that game and he thinks that's what he wants to do, he should probably go talk to Jack-Eye and make sure he knows what he's doing. Like I'm only half kidding, because you'd hate to find out halfway through a fight that the other guy's the light heavyweight champ of the world, right? Like that'd be a bad time to find out.
Yeah, you got to go into it ready to go. Okay. Lastly, we will end with a comment here, and then one other little tidbit that I pulled. This one comes to us on YouTube, actually, from @SteveSpin2384. He says, y'all ain't going to read this, but I'll say it anyways. I hope you guys never stop this pod. It's been a safe haven of mine through some addiction and depression issues, and you guys are legends. Oh, yeah, I have shopped at Ferraro Foods in Trail. Good for you, Ray. Thanks, Paisan. That coming to us from @SteveSpin2384. So opening up a little bit. We really appreciate that, fellas.
Yeah, awesome. Thank you very much. I got to tell you, those are my cousins. That's Danny and James and David that run the Ferraro Foods, and they are a walking comedy show. These guys, like the three of them, if you can just picture pretty easily, three loud, big Italians, and you say good morning to them, and in 30 seconds you're on the ground laughing. Like but they have amazing stores, and it's back home in Trail, and so when I'm back, of course, I see those guys all the time. But thanks for the
real quick live check-ins, like in their busiest hour, just a real quick FaceTime as there's arms flailing and stuff.
The guy you got to do it with is Danny. Honestly, he is like, you can't even. I don't even know what to. He kind of has got.
Oh, we lost him, Dregs.
You know what that is? That's his radio. See, he's got to do radio, and we're interrupting his radio.
Oh, yeah, that's it. You got to bounce.
Oh, yeah.
All right, go, Ray.
Quick. Quick. One thing. What you said, you got one thing you pulled up. Is it funny, or is it just a usual Ryan thing?
Oh, now I feel pressure. I quickly asked ChatGPT for 10 words for rebuild that start with R, and I thought maybe you guys would pick one that fits that situation better. Restore, renovate, reconstruct, revamp, revitalize. He's gone again. Reinforce, reestablish, recreate, remake, reconfigure. I can't believe there were that many words that started with R that had that
lots
meaning.
Lots of R words. Yeah, lots of them.
Reconfigure is good because as long as it's not rebuilt, it can be anything but rebuild. We just cannot have
And we will revisit this on Thursday, Ray. How's that?
Okay, I'm going to go do radio. Guys, peace out. Have a great day. I'll talk to you from LA.
Ray. See you, buddy.
Later.
All right, man. Thank you.
Dregsy,
there goes Ray. Now he's upside down.
Yeah, now he's upside. What a mess. What an absolute mess. You know, I was thinking about his cousins at the grocery store. It'd be amazing to mic one of them up and try and interview him while he's running through people at the register.
Oh, yeah.
If he's at all like Ray
or whatever's going on.
Oh, I know. It'd be like Ray going through security at an airport, like just flustered and rattled. And good old Ray.
I'm not kidding. We're approaching that gap between March 7th, so trade deadline, and then the start of the playoffs. There's a bit of slow time in there, right? So we're going to have to get creative and inventive. I think we have to do this, but let's do it sneakily because Ray's not going to listen to this closing of the podcast. You make the calls, set it up, and Ray doesn't know. So cousin Danny is going to make an appearance on Ray and Dregs here at some point soon.
We'll throw a little Rev Media budget at it and see if we can't come up with something.
Okay.
Sounds good, buddy.
All right, buddy. Thanks very much. Good luck covering the Oilers. There's some issues that need to get ironed out there. So we'll be looking forward to that.
All right. Sounds good, pal. We'll talk later this week.
All right, Ryan Rashog joining us for Ask Ray and Dregs Anything. As you just saw, our good pal Ray Ferraro's got a number of things working on this week in ESPN world, ABC, all of that. And we'll be back on Thursday. So I want to thank our sponsors who continue to support Ray and Dregs, make the pod possible. Our title sponsor, Tim Hortons, and thank you to Acon. Until next time, stay safe, everybody.